Hello and welcome to Heart-Centered Success. I'm your host, Diane Haworth, and today I have a very special guest and a very special topic. You know that I'm a coach and a speaker and author. One of the things I get asked about consistently is friendship. What makes a friend? How can I be a good friend? That just seems to be an area of connection that a lot of people are missing. So I thought it would be fun for us today to talk about the facets of friendship. And to do that, I got my oldest friend, Harry Boyd, who is here. Harry, hi.
Hey, hey.
Thank you for coming. We've known each other nearly 44 years. I thought on the way up here, you're my oldest living friend.
Ah, well.
that I still keep in contact with.
There's a distinction for you.
But we have literally been friends all these years, kept in contact. And for you boys and girls taking notes, that was before text, before emails. We actually had to call each other on the phone.
Payphone.
Or we lived in different, we met in college. So you lived in Richmond, I lived in Warrenton. We did this thing called writing letters. So I'm telling you, we've been friends for a long time.
But as you know, and I'm sure your guests know, time is an arbitrary concept.
It is, but it's been 44 years.
And has absolutely no meaning in ultimate reality. So therefore,
that's exactly the way I'm looking at it.
We met this morning.
And we were in kindergarten when we met.
That's right.
Or before.
Exactly.
Or before. So Harry has had a long career. He's now a retired law enforcement professional. He also currently is working at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. You also work as an intuitive at the Aquarium in Richmond. He's an author of a wonderful book. Tell them the name of your book.
Shadows at Inverness.
And you have a new one coming up.
Indeed.
And that one is called?
The Tablet of Cautela.
So you see, he writes some really super cool stuff, right? And what I thought we would do today is simply talk a little bit about our friendship, what makes a friendship, what creates a friendship, how you can be a better friend, and what is some of the dynamics of friendship as it relates to everything that you're doing. We're doing, what's going on in your community, all of those kinds of aspects. As you can tell, I'm really excited about this. So let's get to it. Harry, why do you think you and I became friends? Why do you think we became friends and stayed friends for so many years?
Well, you know, as I tell people all the time that ask about relationships and friendships and whatever, everything is energy and vibration, everything. The reason you can put your finger in a cup of water, which is under these lovely flowers, and you can't put it through the table, is because the table is vibrating more slowly. So the energy around it is more dense, so it gives the illusion of being solid, which it really isn't, because nothing is. But it's the same with people. We all vibrate in our own set of individual frequencies, our energetic field, or our bubble, as I have come to call it. So the energy in your bubble determines how you understand, interact, relate, perceive this three-dimensional reality that we have chosen to occasion for this period of time. So as that relates to relationships, people come together because of the vibrations. And so your vibrations were complementary to my vibrations, and that is what brought us together. And evidently they're still percolating because we're still buddies.
That, in a nutshell, is why Harry's my friend. Because most people would say, hey, I just liked you, okay? But Harry, even as we were 21, I think, when we met, I was 18, you were 21.
I'm still only 27, so I'm not sure how that worked out.
But he would talk like that even then. So I was just fascinated, first of all, that he could be so eloquent.
Thank you.
And speak in a way that I was not used to my friends speaking. That was certainly wonderful for me. And we had a common bond at the time. You worked as a security guard in my dorm.
Yes.
And we actually both broke up with other people. So we vibrated on,
yes.
Guess what he did, guess what she did.
Yes,
that was kind of fun.
Yes, we did.
Not fun, but kind of fun.
And just that, the whole security guard thing, we prefer a different term.
And what would that term be?
Well, we can go many terms, but I was with the campus police department.
Yes, you were.
So we'll just go there.
There we go.
We'll go there, campus police.
There we go.
Yeah.
And in that particular, I mean, you knew everybody in the dorm, literally.
Pretty much, yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds of people that were in the dorm.
Yeah. Well, the 12 floors?
I think there were 12 floors.
12 floors.
I think there were 50 to 60 people per floor.
Mm-hmm.
So to me is really interesting, we were talking about this on the phone the other day, of everybody we knew back then, there's a couple people I still keep in contact with on Facebook, but nobody that I have been consistent friends with, like you and I have been. So in the course of our friendship, we buried both of our sets of parents.
Yes, we did.
We have been there for each other as we were having relationships, children.
Yes.
Gone through a lot of celebrations. I was trying to remember on the way up here, how many kids' birthday parties, my parents' parties, weddings, funerals. I can't even remember how many things like that we've been through.
Dozens.
So at least dozens.
At least dozens.
So what do you think goes into a friendship that is able to transcend literally decades? What do you think that is?
Well,
and a friendship separate from like a romantic partnership or a brother and sister family, a friendship. What do you think that takes?
Well, it takes work.
Yeah.
For one thing, it takes an awareness of, it takes an awareness of self. You have to be a friend in order to have a friend.
Right.
And so you have to. There's an aspect of self-awareness that goes into any relationship. How you are affecting other people, how your behavior may be affecting your friends. Mm-hmm. And so not only do you have to have a self-awareness, you need an awareness of the needs and the wants and the desires of whomever is within that circle of friendship. So, if you are doing something that is causing other people to be uncomfortable or to experience vibrations that are unpleasant, then you need to be aware of that and you cut it out, because that's what friends do. You don't impose yourself on other people's friendship.
And would you say that's something that as somebody matures that becomes easier, or certainly it morphs?
Well, yeah, I think that the whole quote unquote age thing as you go along, and that's another thing about this reality here. We're a little off topic, but I'm going to go there anyway.
I knew you would.
Yeah, I knew we would. Many people think that this reality is this is a schoolroom. Okay, this is a learning. You come here to learn, and if you don't get it right, you got to come back and you got to keep doing it till you get it right. That has never resonated with me, and I'm not here to sell my particular brand of spirituality. I'm just saying that's never resonated with me. What resonates with me is that we are here to experience. Okay, This is like the ultimate theme park. You can do anything in this reality you choose. You can be a good guy. You can be a bad guy. You can experience love, fear, hate. Anything that's here, you can partake. And of those things all those choices that you make, there are rewards and there are consequences. And experiencing those rewards and consequences, you learn. Default, you have to. There's no way you cannot learn. So, and I think friendship is one of those learning experiences. You learn from the people that you come in contact with. We all come together for a particular purpose. Everybody that we meet, everybody, whether it's you and me, or whether it's the guy that checks you out at Wegmans. All right, everybody we come in contact with brings us a gift, an energetic, a spiritual gift. Now that relationship, and that is a relationship with the guy at the grocery store.
For 30 seconds or whatever it is.
Exactly, could be 30 seconds, could be 30,000 lifetimes, okay? It really doesn't matter. But that gift, they impart a gift to us and we impart a gift in return. Now we may be aware of it or we may have absolutely no clue what that gift is. But in that split second that you're paying for your groceries, you have established a relationship. And it's important to understand what you bring away from that, however brief that encounter might be.
And what you give to that.
And what you give to it, precisely.
I certainly also believe that, and I didn't when we first met, because I was certainly a kid, late 18 years old, so just at the end of my teens. I didn't understand then what I understand now, that our relationships, whether they're friendships or any kind of relationships, are a mirror of us.
Yes.
That's what I believe.
I absolutely agree with that.
And I think that there are certain types of friendships that go the distance, right? One of the things that I think is really important about that is that there are some benefits to those kinds of friendships. And I know that we live in a society, sometimes I think, that is functionally or dysfunctionally independent. And I know as Americans, we're like, you can do it by yourself. You can, but it kind of sucks sometimes. It is nice to have supportive friends. Sometimes that can be your family, but I happen to have a brother and sister. the relationship I have with them is really different than what I had with you as a long-term friend. Right, we knew each other's parents very well. Your mom was my kid's godmother.
Yes, you
And
are.
my kids grew up calling you Uncle Harry.
Yes, yes.
So, I mean, it was all of our, I was thinking all the times that you and Barbara used to come up and all the kids, we would go take them and do things together.
We would, yes. We
What's
certainly
really
would.
nice about that is that with your biological family, there's a history there that may or may not be shared with your siblings. A friend comes in relatively free of that kind of baggage. So there are many times I know in our friendship that you were able to give me a perspective on my family that I would not have been able to get.
As were you. You were absolutely there when I needed perspective as well.
I think that's one of the major advantages of having close friends. I also think that there's an opportunity with a friend to be supportive and know your limits, your boundaries, respect their limits and boundaries, and know when it is that you can be supportive and when not. I know many times when my dad was ill, I was just a mess. And I would just call you, and I don't even know if I made sense. I'm pretty sure I didn't, or that you could even understand me between crying and everything, and the fact that you knew Daddy.
I did.
And knew the kids and knew everything.
Absolutely.
Was quite comforting to me, because I wasn't just talking to a newer friend that had heard me talk about my dad. You grew up with my dad too.
I did. Big Stan.
So you really knew what was going on. There is such, at least I found, such a comfort to that familiarity, and having a consistent friend throughout decades. To me, there's just there's really a sweetness about that if you cultivate the friendship.
True.
And I think you have to do that, especially.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I said, when we started being friends, there was no text, there was no phones. I was thinking all the way up here, because I lived in the dorm. If you wanted to see if I wanted to go to lunch, you would have to go to my door, write on the little white-off board, "Hey, Di, want to go to lunch? Meet me in here at 12 o'clock." And maybe I would see it and maybe I wouldn't.
That's right.
It was the olden days. and here we are, still friends. I'm wondering, I am curious about this. We both have children that are, your youngest will be how old?
23.
Okay, so my youngest is 30, and then our oldest are right around 34, because our girls are about the same age. How do you see their friendships different than our friendships? As far as, do you think they're as in touch, their generation is in touch with their friends?
It's a whole different kind of in touch. Everything's Twitter, everything's tweeted, everything. And I've only sent one tweet in my entire life. I'd like to make that perfectly clear.
I missed it.
I
Sorry
just
about
did
that.
it 'cause-
I totally missed it.
Yeah,
You tweeted and I was
I
gone.
tweeted and it was gone and never happened again. So you really didn't miss anything. I think it said, "This is my first tweet," and that was, yeah, literally. So that was pretty much it. But everything is, everything's very well. The way I look at it, the way I see it, or my perception is, everything is pretty superficial for these people. I mean, and none of these folk, anybody who's watching, I'm not calling you superficial by any stretch of the imagination, but the manner in which you relate is very, it's very quick. It's very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not really.
There's not a depth.
There's not a depth. There's not much depth there, at least in my perception. Now I'm sure it's pretty deep for these people because that's what they've got.
Yeah.
But it's and there's everything happens just like that.
Yeah.
And everything changes just like that. And nobody seems to worry about, okay, we're supposed to go to lunch at 12, but now nobody's going to go. So, okay. It's a whole different relationship. When you and I decided we were going to go to lunch or go to someplace,
We did.
it happened. And if it didn't happen, we found out why this didn't happen. Now, if James is going to go to lunch with somebody and they change your mind 3 minutes before he's supposed to be there, it's like, okay. Everybody lives in the moment, I think. A lot of folks just live in the moment.
And I'm wondering, are they living in the moment? They may be living in the moment, but are they present? What I tell my clients, and what I would recommend for you too, yes, I think it's great to be able to keep in touch on Facebook. I, quite frankly, enjoy seeing my friends' vacation pictures and the grandbaby and what they're doing and all. That's great, but it does not take the place of one-on-one communication and
Right.
experience. Like I said, we were there in the same room and helped each other grieve at the death of our parents.
Yes, exactly.
That's not the same as a Facebook message that says, I'm sorry. If that's all you can do, that's great. But, you know, you looked in my eyes, I looked in yours. We were there for each other's families.
We were.
I was there the day, my whole family, my husband and my kids, we were there the day James was born.
Yes, you were. Yeah, absolutely. In the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't ever give,
Exactly.
that's something that we've shared that's not the same.
But we didn't have the, how shall we say, the technology to do otherwise.
And I'm actually glad.
We used what we used.
Yep.
Just as these folks today are using what they have available to them, and as the next generation will use something completely and totally different. So it's not so much the instrumentality of the relationship as it is the intent and the energy that is exchanged within that relationship.
So I would say that the connection, that's one of the things that I tell my clients all the time. The connection is what makes the difference.
Mm-hmm.
It's the connection. Now, if you live in different parts of the world, I have a friend, my friend Suzanne, that lives in Australia.
Yeah.
Obviously, I haven't seen her for years, physically seen her for years. I do keep up with her on Facebook, but we actually talk at least once or twice a month. So we do connect in the way that we can. There's a couple of friends that I have in England that we do FaceTime. So I actually do see them. I don't give them hugs, but I do get to connect like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's unusual because of the space difference. What's interesting to me is people who will Facebook themselves like to the guy down the street.
Exactly.
I'm not saying just go over to his house, but hey, how about do you guys want to go take a walk? Do you want to meet for dinner? When people come to me as a coach, and I know they come to you at the aquarium when you do your intuitive work with them, they're missing that connection.
Mm-hmm.
They're missing their hugs. They're missing something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for people to rethink that independence and see how they can be collaborative in their friendships, I think adds to a richness in life. I know it certainly has for my friendship with you and other friendships I've had. What do you think of that?
Absolutely. I certainly agree. Relationships, there's a certain effort that goes into a relationship.
There's a lot of effort.
There's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And when that effort is recognized as for what it is, then I think that makes the whole thing work better. I mean, we've put a lot of effort into our relationship over the years, although it hasn't been, it's not like we had to work at it. It's just that there are a lot of things that go into it, like coming to the hospital when my son was born.
Yep.
I mean, that was an effort.
Well, yeah, because you lived 100 miles from me.
Exactly. So when those things are done in the spirit of love and friendship and mutual respect and all that stuff that goes into a meaningful relationship, then it's nice to have that recognized, and that's one of the things I think that fosters it.
I agree. I also think while there is effort, not overthinking it. My children have known literally since they were old enough to know what a phone was. They knew Harry's number. They always knew they could call Uncle Harry. They still do to this day,
And they
by
do
the way.
from
They do.
time to time, yeah.
But what I've always said is wonderful about our relationship too, we had a time, especially when our kids were young, when we were going down there, you were coming up here, our families were doing all kinds of things together. As a matter of fact, at your son's first birthday party, remember Kyle broke his arm, and after cake, you were in the hospital with me and my son while your beautiful wife is taking care of the party. So, because my husband happened to be out of town at the time. So there were those kinds of things. But what's so interesting is after the kids got a little older, especially the girls were in different activities, those things didn't happen as much, and I never felt we were disconnected.
Right. No.
I just
agree.
never felt we were disconnected. It
Never
was like things come and go. You all know that if you have a baby, you're going to have a different set of priorities. There's going to be different friends, perhaps new mommy and daddy friends. I know earlier in our careers, we both went to different churches. We had church friends.
They did, yeah.
When you were on the force, did you have certain people that were, I know you had people you worked with, but did you have people that were friends?
Oh, sure. Absolutely, yeah. You get a certain, anywhere you work, whether you did the police thing like I did, or whatever your work situation has to be, you are drawn to certain people for certain reasons. And they become close to you, and they become special friends, if you will, which are separate from the general friendship that you feel in a group setting.
Well, especially for something as specific as law enforcement, or like my son that did firefighting.
Yes, exactly.
That's a different kind of bond.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. That can be a very, lasting thing too. I still have friends that I worked with on the police department there that we keep in touch, and we go to dinner and lunch and have.
I saw them at your daughter's wedding.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so those things, they're, and I know it's a cliche, but those are friendships that last for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And many lifetimes, because you and I know that we've been friends in more than this particular incarnation.
For a long, long, long time.
Oh my God, yeah. And so these things transcend time.
And that's interesting you said that. I know there's certain people I've met, I'm not sure that I've told the audience, but you've heard me talk about my little friend Sharon, and she's a little person, like she's 5 foot. She's my little friend Sharon, and she is in her 80s. And the second I met her, we met through work 20 years ago. The second we met, it was like, oh, I know you. But I didn't, and she didn't know me, but we instantly had this connection that can only be explained by something that happened outside of this realm.
Absolutely. No question.
So I do think you have those heart, it's like in your heart and gut that this is a familiar energy to you, like you said. This is somebody I know. It's not that they remind me of somebody. That's a different kind of friend.
Right.
But there is a soul friendship.
Precisely.
That happens.
And those things, I mean, you remember those things. I mean, the way it makes sense to me, and again, I'm not trying to sell my brand of anything to anybody, but when we decided we're done here, okay, and we're going to transform, and then we decide, okay, we're going to come back and have another go at the theme park, you bring a piece of that last time with you. And so after a while, you develop this really incredibly awesome, what I call a metaphysical database of experience and knowledge and wisdom and friendships and all these things that you've experienced over multiple lifetimes. And so when you run across another spirit who has chosen to come back at this particular time and your paths have crossed, it's only perfectly normal to remember that in some way, shape, or form.
Feel some kind of pull.
Feel some kind of pull, something familiar,
Instantly like them.
Instantly like them or dislike them.
Or just there's something about them that just doesn't quite feel right.
Exactly.
Now that's an interesting perspective as well. There have been, I'm sure, wonderful, loving people that have wanted to be friends, and sometimes it's just not a good fit.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it's just not necessarily a good fit. There's not the same interest, because I think that has a lot to do with it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You have to respect each other. I think that there are common interests, and you have to grow together, because we certainly did that. And what I was thinking too, I just can't imagine having this conversation 40 years ago. It just, it wasn't. Yeah. But we decided, and I can tell you right now, when I first met, I think I met you probably 10 years ago. We met for lunch, halfway between where we live. And I was telling him about some energy work that I was doing, and he said, "You're nuts. You're crazy. I think you've gone off the deep end." But my friend stuck with me. And now you're just as nuts.
I was open to it, yeah.
Were you?
Yes, you did. You introduced me to a whole different aspect of the experience.
And that's interesting, because with your music and you also, and your art, you introduced me to different pursuits, and that's one thing friends do.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
They share interests. Sometimes they have the same interest. I have an interest in art. I've never been as good as art as you are. I've never been as artistic. You were just born that way.
Art's in the eye of the beholder.
Well, I mean, really, you're a musician and an artist, and you can sing, and you're in a band. You do all those sorts of things. That to me was fascinating. That was really fascinating. And to watch, it's really a privilege, I think, a privilege and the honor of watching a friend go through the process of life and be with them when they're married and divorced and they go through deaths and there's children and we're burying parents and all the things that we never thought was going to happen to us.
Yeah, that's right. Wasn't supposed to happen to us.
Yeah. But just being able to share that with someone that is, I mean, I think of you as my family, but that's not in your biological family. There's a special gift to that. And you were talking a few minutes ago about people creating friendships at work. I think another thing that's happened, people like me, I'm a solopreneur now, so I have worked for myself, me and a computer, for 12 years now. So I am the CEO, the accountant, the bottle washer, the cleanup crew. I'm everything. So if I get mad at people at the office, I have nowhere to go. And I think that that's another reason why people seem to be craving friendship now, because the way the workforce has shifted,
right.
They're not having that, and a lot of people are moving away from traditional religious organizations, which is where there used to be another group.
Right.
There's not even the civic organizations have started to change.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of separateness. I mean, people that everything, computers, you know, many people work from home on their computer.
That's right.
So even though they're a member of a large organization, they don't really have to go to the office
right.
to do work.
Or they go once a week.
Or they go once a week.
Yep.
And then they get on conference calls or whatever they do, but that's sort of a step removed from an actual relationship.
Yep.
And so the relationships have altered dramatically with the influx of all this technology.
And sometimes you can keep friendships, like these friendships that I have with people in the UK. They're people I met at certain workshops. And I really can say they're good friends still because I can see them, even though I can't go to dinner with them and we don't meet for lunch like you and I do. So there's certainly wonderful aspects. I guess my point is the people I see that are in happiest places in their life have a balance between the two. They have some friendships, that are in person, I guess we would call them.
Right.
And then some friendships that are more online, or they're able to perpetuate on the phone, or that kind of thing. That's what I see missing sometimes, depending on the person I'm speaking with. But in some of my younger clients, sometimes that it's that in-person stuff that they're not necessarily enjoying the way that we used to. And
a lot of people are uncomfortable with interpersonal relationships.
Yep.
A lot of people are uncomfortable with this.
Yep.
They are far more comfortable with their phone or their computer or Skype. The whole personal interaction can be very intimidating to some people.
So what would you say to somebody who recognizes that they might be lacking those kinds of relationships? How could they go out and perhaps find some friends? I know there are certain things like meetups, and there's different events in every community, really. Would you suggest that's one of the things that I suggest? And we're talking about friendships too, not.
That's certainly one. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in the whole area of relationships, friendships, whatever. You know, people come and ask me. A lot of time, I get questions about romantic relationships. You know, am I going to meet somebody? Is that going to happen? Or and this is what I tell people about relationships. That the very first thing you really need to do, in my opinion, is to determine what type of relationship you're looking for. If you're going to look purposefully for a relationship, do you want it to be pen pal? Do you want it to be romantic?
What level?
Do you want it to be physical? Do you want it to be electronic? And then once you figure that out, then you can sort of, the next thing that I think is incredibly important is once you've figured that type of relationship out, you want to be looking for somebody who's going to be, there are three things that really resonate with me. You want somebody of like mind, okay? Because if somebody is not of like mind, whether it's a romantic relationship or whether it's a work relationship or a friendship, it's going to be very difficult to foster that and to make it continue and for it to bear fruit, if you will. You got to be of like mind. They need to know where you're coming from, and you need to know where they're coming from. You need to be aware of people who are of like vibration, okay? Because as we talked about, the table and us, we're all vibrating on certain frequencies. When you're with somebody that you are vibrating in concert with on many of these frequencies that we have, it physically feels good to be in their presence, because I feel good when I'm hanging out with you. I physically feel good. There are people that I'm with sometimes that I don't feel physically good to be with because of the vibrations. They're not right. So if you're looking to foster a friendship, it's important literally to see how you feel in their presence. That's one indicator of whether you're vibrating in concert or not. But the one that's the very most important, I think, is to be aware of the other person's or a group of people, their spirituality. Because it's very important, especially in a romantic relationship or a relationship of long term, that your spirituality comes first for you. And so if you need to be able to express that to your friends or to the whomever and have them be okay with it. Now, they don't have to necessarily accept your brand of spirituality, but they need to be okay with your brand of spirituality and not try to change, nor should you try to change them into your form of spirituality. Everybody needs to be, you where you are, I'm where I am. You know, Donald Trump's where Donald Trump is, wherever that may be. And so everybody's on their own level. There's no better, no worse, no good, no bad. But it's important to be mindful of your personal spirituality and the spirituality and the spirituality of those people that you're considering for friendship or that you're developing a friendship with, I think. Because the ideal is for everybody to grow together, but if someone is not ready to go, it's okay. You need to be able to go where you need to go without someone or group of people trying to hold you back and put you into a box that you're not going to fit in anyway.
I think that all those are important. I also love the idea of you finding what you like to do instead of looking out here for friends to complete you. Finding what you like to do. If you like to golf or you like to do music or you're interested in a certain type of spirituality, go to events, groups, things. So you are going to be more likely to meet people who are of like mind.
Exactly.
I happen to think that the curiosity piece is really big. For me, it is. I really appreciate people who are opening and welcome. They don't have to agree with everything that I think. Matter of fact, sometimes it's even more fun. You can grow by getting a different perspective.
True.
Right? You can go from a different perspective. Now, I will say sometimes there are perspectives you ain't interested in. And maybe it's like, that's just a particular type of thought that I'm not interested in exploring. And that's fine. That's fine. I also think with friends, we have to give them space. Because as we're growing and changing, so are our friends, right?
Absolutely.
So to be able to be supportive, even if you're in a group, say you're in a new group, you've gone to an event, and you've met some new people. And especially I think that you're just beginning friendships, potential friendships. Sometimes people are off. Sometimes they're off. Sometimes they've just come from a long drive in traffic
in the rain
and they're just not having a great day. So I would say, meet them a couple times in group environments and just see, is there something there where you can grow together, support each other, hopefully in a non-judgmental way, which doesn't mean you can't give advice. We've done that for 40 years.
Yes, we have.
But we also had one basic understanding. We knew when the other person wasn't going to do it, and we just backed off. Right?
Whatever do you mean?
Yeah, but I mean, that's plenty of times I just say, okay, well, do you want to know? No? Okay. Then I didn't tell you.
Exactly.
You have to, I think, be willing to be open, supportive, but I also think you can't look for a friendship to fill a void that you have.
Very true.
The happier and the more of a friend you are to yourself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just kind of needy.
Yep. And you know yourself that, we all project our vibrations out from us. You get back what you put out. So if you're miserable and you're having a bad time and you're out there and you're grumpy all the time, that's what you're going to attract.
Because your exterior reflects your interior world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Precisely. So it's very important, I think, to be self-aware. And it's also very important to, I'm a big Shakespeare fan.
Yep. Oh, I've heard that.
Yes. And I can quote you long passages
Yes,
of
you
Macbeth
can.
if you'd like, but perhaps that'll be for
For
another
hours.
show. Yes, for hours.
Yeah. And hours.
And hours. But I think one of Will's greatest lines was, "To thine own self be true." And that's absolutely the case. You have to be true to yourself, because if you're not true to yourself, you can't be true to anybody else. If you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people. If you cannot be a friend to yourself, then you can't be a friend to other people.
I absolutely agree. The other thing that I think is so valuable about a friendship is when you do have an in-place long-term friendship like we enjoy, those times when you are not a friend to yourself, that's when you can turn to your friend and say,
very true.
I know I'm off. I can't even see it. I'm so deep in the weeds here, I can't see it. And sometimes it takes a friend, even more than a family member or a spouse, that can say, wake up. Let me tell you what I'm seeing.
Precisely.
Because it's really a special kind of love, I think, that friends have.
Sure.
Supportive, healthy friendships, of course, we're talking about.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Now, when we were on the phone talking about this topic, we mentioned non-human friends, which I happen to think is really important.
Sure.
So what are some of your non-human friends? And I don't mean the ones in the ethers. I mean the ones with fur and that you rode and things. What are those kinds of folks?
Well, you know, I've always been an animal fancier. I love animals. I think animals are awesome. And, you know, it doesn't matter if it's the squirrel that runs up the tree or if it's, you know, the dog that I've had since childhood. I think animals are incredible. They are beings. They are incredibly special. And so I haven't had a number of pets over the years. I actually quit thinking of them as pets, though. That's a little...
They're friends.
They're friends, exactly.
Furry friends.
They're furry friends, or however you want to make them. But I've had dogs, cats, horse, and with each one, I developed a specific relationship.
Exactly.
A specific type of interaction with each individual pet, because it's an individual entity that just happens to be incarnated in a dog.
But it's a personality.
It's a personality.
With likes and dislikes.
Sure.
And
exactly.
the thing that I think a lot of people tend to really enjoy pets, non-human friendships, is because a lot of times there's loyalty there that they don't feel that they get in other ways. There's just a beautiful type of friendship, I think, that you can get from whether they're your pet that lives in your house. I have a cat currently named Rory. She is my soulmate. My husband knows it. I've told everybody. I've never had a little fuzzy entity like that before. She's absolutely precious to me, and you know that. I think those are really special relationships. But I also think you can have relationships with places. I think that we used to go to Maymont Park.
Yeah. Yes.
You can have almost like there is a relationship, a friendship you can have with a place. Some people think of it as organizations. I don't think of that so much as they're sacred places that I feel that there's an energetic connection.
There's energy there, and everything has consciousness. There's consciousness, everything. This lovely flower has consciousness, everything. The table has consciousness. And so when you establish, when you acknowledge that consciousness, you are, in essence, establishing a relationship that can blossom and go other places, just like with people. So I'm absolutely all about being relationship sensitive to all manner of things.
So I saw what you did with the blossom and the flowers. That was cool.
Thank you.
Good one. Yeah. I do think nature is one. I mean, there's been volumes and volumes of poetry written about friendships in natural settings, with the beach, because you're a beach guy. I mean, with the mountains. Many people will say that they never feel more connected or more among friends than when they're in their garden.
Sure.
When they're in their garden.
Sure.
So I think that's really another type of friendship. It's certainly different than the one you and I have, but it is another type of friendship I think that's really important for people to remember.
Yes.
From the balance perspective, I think to have relationships that are perhaps majority online because of perhaps distance, to have relationships, friendships that are more in person, and then maybe with a cute little furry friend or nature is maybe something that would be beneficial from a balance standpoint. What do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. You know, I think that one type that we haven't really mentioned, and you may have it on one of those lovely cards there.
I'm looking right now.
But You know, it was important for me to establish a relationship with Creator. I think that, you know, you and I came from a Protestant background. Traditional Protestant background. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. And I'm certainly not trying to sell my brand of spirituality, as I have said previously. I want to make that perfectly clear. But I was always brought up with Creator, with God, as a male figure who got really mad if you didn't do exactly what you were supposed to do, and just never resonated with me. So one Sunday I'm in church, and I'm grown. I mean, the children are there. It's the whole thing, yeah. And so we're in church, and the minister was literally droning on about something I had absolutely no interest in whatsoever. And all of a sudden I got a voice, and it came to me, and it said, and this is exactly what it said, it says, "You no longer have need of a parent God." And that came directly from wherever it came from. And I was like, I'm sorry, excuse me, where, what? And that really resonated with me. And so from that point on, my conception of Creator changed from a vengeful Protestant God, parent figure, to something that continues to evolve. And so, and again, there's nothing wrong with the Protestant conception of God. If that's what works for you, absolutely, go for that. But for me, it changed right there. And so my relationship with Creator began to change and evolve and expand. And it continues to do so, even so. So I think it's very important that people realize that, you know, you have a relationship with Source.
And would you say there's friendship elements in that as well?
Oh, no question. Absolutely. Yeah, we're buddies. We're big buddies. We're big buddies. We get along really well.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up. I feel that relationship with the, I call it the divine wisdom within, right, is absolutely something that you need to cultivate. That the more that is understood, recognized, accessed through meditation, that's something that you and I learned to do together, actually.
Absolutely.
Right? We didn't grow up that way either. Nobody at Presbyterian Church said, well, actually, I did have one guy, but yeah, that was something that evolved. But the more I cultivate that relationship and become a friend to myself, that divine part of me, I don't mean this part, I mean the divine part of me, the richer every area of my life grows.
Absolutely.
And there's the resonance there is with that eternal spirit, with that divine love. That's what works for me as far as that's concerned.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this. We both had lovely friends, and I mean friends, not romantic relationships. Friendships that we'll just say didn't work out, that there was a parting of the ways. This is another thing that actually clients will ask me about. When do you know when it's time to give up? You and I've talked about going through really ebbs and flows of friendship, when there's close friendships. There are times when you were in the academy, when you were getting your master's, you were busy. You were raising a young family, and then I had stuff going on. It wasn't that we weren't friends anymore, but it was our time had gone a different place, right? Yeah. It wasn't like there was a fight or anything like that.
Right.
When do you tell your clients that it is time to reevaluate a friendship?
Well,
I think that's important topic.
I think so. I think it's very important. And I approach it this way with folks when they ask me these things. I tell them that, you have to rely on your feelings. Feelings are the language of the soul. That's the way our soul communicates with our head. And it's far more, and I learned this very early on in my police career, that I found for me it was far, far, far more important and ended far better if I listened to my feelings rather than my head. But see, cops aren't supposed to have feelings. They take those away from you when you graduate.
Now, you talking about your intuition, or are you talking about your emotions?
I'm talking about emotions.
I think that's interesting for them to know.
Well, I think that's true. That's a very good distinction. But I'm talking emotionally here.
Okay.
I'm talking about emotion. And so I think in the area of friendship, whatever kind of relationship it may be, if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't anymore. Now, that doesn't say you can't take another path, and because paths that diverge often come back together further down the road, And so, but I think it's incredibly important that when you are evaluating a relationship, friendship, whatever it happens to be, that feelings and emotions have to be a a huge component of whether to let it go, whether to alter it, whether it's working for you anymore, whether it's working for the others anymore. And these things have to be examined, and and they should be examined in the light of a loving analysis rather than simply, well, you're going to do what I tell you, that whole control thing, it just doesn't work.
Honest communication.
Honest communications, absolutely, with love.
Yeah.
With love.
Thank you for the love part.
Throwing the love right up in there because it's an incredibly important component because love is everything. Everything is love. It's just the way it's manifest that gets sort of different.
Skewed. Slightly skewed.
If you will.
I do think that, I agree with you, I do think that what you want to do is everybody's going to have challenges, right?
Absolutely.
So, we've mentioned some of the challenges that we've gone through in our lives that the other one was there to help them with. And sometimes when we're going through those challenges, like when the death of your wife, death of my dad, we weren't at our best.
No.
So that's not usually the time that I would have somebody give up on a friendship, unless there's an abusive relationship. Now that's a completely different thing, right? That's a completely different thing. So with love, I would say you ask yourself, what is the loving thing to do here? For myself, for my friend. And I do think one of the things that happens in very loving friendships, by the way, is that you think you know what your friend needs and you're going to do it. Maybe they know what they need. Maybe you need to ask, how can I support you? I've started doing that instead of what can I do for you? Because a lot of times if you're deep in a trauma, you don't know because you're just too deep in it. You just don't know what somebody can do for you. But if I shifted that to say, how can I support you? Sometimes they still don't know, but that's when they might say, you know what, there's no food in the house. I'm at the hospital with this situation. Can you go pick this person up from school? Can you do this? But how can I support you? I've found to be a really powerful way to show love in a friendship.
And I think that's absolutely right. And many times people are hesitant to accept what can I do for you? Yeah. What can I do for you? Well, I'm a guy. You don't need to do anything for me. I can handle it. It doesn't
I've
necessarily.
heard that a time or two.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a guy. But the point is, many people are hesitant to accept that type of offer of assistance. So if it's more of a support thing, well, look, I'm here if you need anything. You just let me know, and whatever you're comfortable with allowing me to help you with, I'm here and ready to go. So I think that's absolutely very important distinction. And
understanding that especially during a crisis, that situation may change. So offer more than once.
Yeah.
I remember do you remember, both our moms died within 2 months of each other.
They did.
And it was somewhat unexpected. And I just remember Mom died the end of August. I don't even remember until January because we were taking care of my dad. We were doing it was just, I still can't remember certain things that happened. I guess I went to work. I guess I paid bills. My kids ended up graduating from school, so I guess they went to school. But you just don't know.
Right.
So to continue not badgering someone, by the way, but every once in a while, maybe it's an email, maybe it's a note. Hey, I'm here for you. Let me know. What can I do for you? Or say, would you like this, this, or this? And then respect whatever you get. And if they say no, thank you, then it's no, thank you. I do want to mention this, though, and I learned this the hard way, as I learned many of my lessons over the last so many decades. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone else is allowing them to help you and to receive that loving gift from a friend.
Precisely.
Whether it's a shoulder to cry on, which both those shoulders have gotten plenty of work out from my family, or it's some kind of a gesture, let's go to lunch, anything. It is a gift to your friend and to you to be able to receive that. Does that ring true to you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No question. No question. Yeah, allowing people to show their love, to show their respect, to show their friendship.
Yep.
That's as much of a gift to them as their gift is to you.
And sometimes I have just mentioned that to people who were in trauma because they didn't think of it that way.
Sure.
I do want to mention before our time is up too, when you said that sometimes friendships, diverge, right? That's okay too. Sometimes you're just friends while you're at the same job, or your kids are in the same school, or you live in the same neighborhood. And whatever it is that brought you together, when that's no longer in place, it's okay. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's okay. As you're growing and changing and evolving, your friends will grow, change, and evolve, or you'll get different friends. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, actually. Do you?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, and I think, like we said in the beginning, people come together at specific times for specific purposes. And once that purpose is concluded, whether you know it or not, you may be called to go another direction to fulfill a purpose with somebody else, as well as this other person over here. And so it's not a cause for, it's not a cause for to be sad or angry. It just is.
And it's not no guilt either.
No guilt. No. No guilt. No guilt.
And I do think that there are three ways, actually, that you can manage friendships. There are certain friends that literally are Facebook friends or social media friends. There's somebody I know right now that I literally went to kindergarten with, and I see him every 10 years at the high school reunion. That's it. And on Facebook every once in a while, I see what his kid's done, or he sees what my kids have done. And that's great. That's it. That's fine. Then there's other friends where you might send birthday cards, and maybe you see them, at the holidays or their birthday or something like that. That's great too. Some of those tend to be situational friends. Friends of my parents, for example. Once that was gone, I will check on them, see how they're doing, but it's not like we're necessarily friends, right? We were friends through my parents or through my kids' school or whatever it was. And then there's friends for the long haul.
For the long haul.
For the long haul. And as wonderful as it is to have friends like you, it's great to have new friends. The producer here, Tremaine, I love that man.
Tremaine rocks.
I love that man. And we've known each other maybe a couple years, and again, that was just like, there's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
There's my guy. It's wonderful to have new friends that you can learn and grow with as well. So in the time that we have left, do you have any tips for people who specifically are thinking, yeah, you know what, I do want to enlarge my circle of friends. I do want to have some more friends. What would you tell them?
I'd say be very careful.
Of course you would.
Be very, very careful about who you accept. They're friends and they're friends. People who may approach you in a spirit of friendship may not be genuine. So I'm not trying to put a wall up here, but just you trust your feelings. That's where I'm going with that. Trust your feelings about friends, about a friendship, about any relationship. Trust your feelings. Feelings is the language of the soul. That's the way the universe is going to tell you what's going on with it. So pay attention to those feelings. Also, I think it's important to determine within yourself just how far you are willing to go in your aspect of being a friend. I think it's important that how much am I willing to invest in this relationship, this friendship, and to be careful to be cognizant of what the other person may be persons may be looking for or expecting in return. Expectations can be a very tricky thing.
Clear communication again.
Absolutely, clear communication. Expectations can get in the way. It can end very poorly if expectations are
on everybody's part.
On everybody's part,
yep.
Precisely. So just go into it with your eyes open and know what you're looking for and pay attention to your feelings.
I think that's really good advice. I would add, be a friend to yourself first. If you want loving, kind, compassionate friends, that's who you want to be. You want to be that way to you, and what you have is what you give to others. So the more loving, kind, compassionate, generous, what's the right word I want to use? When I'm telling people to be loving, compassionate, and kind, I'm not telling them to be a doormat, by the way. So having healthy boundaries, right, so that you are always loving and kind to yourself, that doesn't mean that you're going to do your friend's laundry for 3 weeks in a row so they can go off and have an affair in Vegas. I'm not talking about that kind of thing. And I'm sure you guys get that. Also, ask for what your friend might need. You know, how can I support you? If it's in a particular, let's say that you got a project going on together. Well, how can I support you in that? What can I do? And the last thing I would say is be present for your friends. If you're having lunch with them, if you happen to invite them on your TV show, be fully present with them. I don't want to be talking to Harry and me be on the phone and doing something else. Unless I'm looking for a picture of my grandson, that's the only reason I should be on the phone. But be present, because how are you going to know, grow, and really enjoy the relationship if you're not present, either on the phone, if you're on a Zoom call, or if you're lucky enough to have a friend that you can actually be in person with. That's what I would say, is absolutely be present with them.
Absolutely.
Anything else that you can add to that? Obviously wise.
Incredibly wise, as you have been since day one. No, I'd just like to say I appreciate you having me on, and that, you know, we've been friends for whoever knows how many lifetimes are out there, and I expect that to continue, and I'm looking forward to the next 3 or 4 million lifetimes.
In whatever kind of TV communication that will be around in 1,000 years.
Exactly.
Look for the Diane and Harry show, or whatever incarnation it would be.
Whatever it happens to be, yeah.
Thank you so much, Harry. It's really an honor for me to be here.
It's
so
been a
much
complete honor
fun.
and a pleasure. Thank you so
and
much.
if somebody is absolutely mesmerized by the plethora of information you have given today, is there a way they can get in contact with you?
Sure. You can just shoot me an email. My email address is harryboyd, HARRYBOYD 11 @gmail.com.
There we go. And to find out more about me and my work, you can go to my website, dianehaworth.com. It will certainly be in the credits. And also my newer website, beloveprinciples.org, and you can find out about that project I have. Want to thank Harry. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank my friend Tremaine Johnson, who is our producer, who none of this would happen without him. Thank you so much. Go out, be a friend, have a friend, enjoy your friends. I love you much, and we'll see you next time on Heart-Centered Success with Diane Haworth.